I didn't have sex with him. I'm not lying, she said. Why should we believe anything you say? I asked her. At least you were going to. This is just as bad. You see what the problem is? We don't believe you. That's what happens when you start lying. Nobody believes anything you say. Worse, you tried to get Julia to lie for you. I heard you planning those lies, Cindy. I think you should go see if Pierce has any more good ideas. I'm not going anywhere, she said. You'll probably change the locks while I'm gone. Jack observed as his tee shot sailed straight down the middle of the fairway, a consistent outcome for him. Though not particularly long, it was reliably accurate. With the others having already teed off, it was now my turn. As I prepared for my shot on the par 5, I decided to give it my all and see where it landed. Being a hefty individual who regularly engaged in powerlifting, my strength had notably improved since college, especially evident in my bench press. With my new graphite composite driver in hand, I felt confident. Striking the ball perfectly, I impressed Jack with the distance it covered. As we proceeded down the fairway, Jack made his second shot while I awaited my turn for the first. Suddenly, his demeanor changed upon checking his phone. It was clear something urgent awaited him at the office. Though he couldn't disclose the details, he requested to be taken back immediately, apologizing for cutting our game short. Jack was my boss. He also owned Whitman Enterprises. I had been working there since I graduated from college. They hired me when I was a junior in high school, and I was number 2 there. It was a family business. We manufactured pumps, all kinds of pumps. They were one of a kind and designed for specific purposes. We had a foundry and machine shop, and we made them from blueprint to finished product. I was the vice president of production and practically ran the company. Jack's daughter, Allison, was my co-worker in sales. I knew there had been some buzz about us being bought out by a Swiss company, so I figured that was it. I drove him to the office and headed home. I was sitting at a stoplight on one of those old cobblestone streets in the center of town, and an elderly woman was crossing the street in front of me. I watched in horror as her toe caught on one of the cobblestones, and she stumbled. She tried to keep her balance but was now staggering forward. She dropped her grocery bag, tripped again, and fell. I heard her shriek trying to save herself as her arms hit the street. I shifted the lever to park and jumped out of the car, running around the truck and kneeling down beside her. She was crying, and I felt terribly sorry for her. Her hands were bleeding, and her arm was clearly broken. I lifted her into my arms. "I'm so sorry," I told her. "I'm going to help you. You're going to be okay. I'm going to take you to the hospital. Do you have any pain except in your arms and hands?" "No," she sobbed, "but I think my arm is broken. I dropped my groceries, and I'm afraid my balls are broken too." "Well, my knees are bloody too, honey. My arm hurts so much." She was breaking my heart. Tears came to my eyes. This sweet little lady didn't deserve this. I thought of my mother. She had passed away from a stroke 2 years ago. If she had fallen like that, I would have wanted someone to take care of her. "I'll get you some more eggs," I told her. "Let me help you get in the truck. I'll drive you to the hospital." That made her cry even harder. "Thank you, but I can't go to the hospital." Her breathing became ragged. "I don't have insurance. I can't afford to go to the hospital now." I felt like she was a petite African-American woman, about 70 years old or so, and you could tell she was stunning. She was still very beautiful, and I felt very sorry for her. I thought of my mother. She had passed away from a stroke 2 years ago. If she had fallen like that, I would have wanted someone to take care of her. "I'll take you to the hospital," I told her. I'll take care of it. My wife works there, and we'll work something out. You look like someone's mother, and I'd like someone to help my mother. I'm taking you in. Let me help you up, get the groceries, and we'll go. Okay, it hurts a lot, she said. Thank you, young man. I'll never forget it. I lifted her up and put her in the front seat of the truck. It was higher than she was comfortable with, so I lifted her up again. I gathered her groceries and put them in the back seat of the truck. On the way to the hospital, she said her name was Samantha Groves and that she was a widow. After driving about a mile, I stopped at the door of the emergency room. Cindy, my wife, was on shift, and I helped Samantha inside. I walked her over to the desk where Kieran was working. I told her what was going on and that I would take care of all the bills. She immediately carried Samantha to the bed, and Rachel, the nurse, cleaned up her hands and knees while we waited for the doctor. They tried to escort me out, but Samantha was against it. She wanted me to stay. I asked her if she wanted to call someone. She said her phone was in her purse. So, I went back to the car and got it. She still needed ID, so when I got back, I gave it to Kirsten. Samantha pulled out her phone. It was one of those cheap phones that you can buy minutes on. She dialed a number and then started crying again. "What's wrong, Samantha?" I asked. "I don't have any minutes," she sobbed. "This is just a terrible day." "Here, use my phone." I handed her my Android. I had to show her how to use it, and she was talking to one of the women on the other end of the line, Cecilia. "I fell and hurt myself," she said. "I'm in the hospital." "No, a very nice white man is helping me." "Please, honey, could you please?" "Okay, please don't worry." I was wondering where Cindy was. She worked in the emergency room as a physician's assistant, and was supposed to be there. I poked my head out and saw Rachel. "Where the hell is Cindy?" I asked. "That woman is in pain and she needs help." Rachel blushed. "She left for lunch?" I called her, and she'll be here any minute. "What do you mean she went to lunch?" "She just got here. Cindy worked from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock, lunch break came at 7 o'clock. Rachel staggered for another minute or so but finally just walked away. What the hell was going on? I walked back over to Samantha. She was still crying. I crouched down next to her and hugged her. "It's okay, Samantha," I told her. "Who did you call?" "My granddaughter," she said. "She's in college, she just got out of class, and she'll be here in a little while. Then you can leave." "I know you don't want to stay here." "Nonsense," I told her. "I'm getting off work." "It won't be such a bad day, Samantha. You have a new friend today, you're going to get better. Your granddaughter is on her way, and you won't have to work for a while because you'll have a cast on your arm." She giggled and hugged me back. She kissed my cheek, and I heard a voice behind us. It was low and husky and sounded like smoky jazz. "Who's your new lover, Grandma?" I looked back and saw a vision framed by the hospital curtain. She was small, swarthy, and cute as a newborn kitten. She walked to the other side of the bed and kissed Samantha. "I don't know his name," Samantha said. I was so excited I forgot to ask. "I think he's a Good Samaritan, he took care of me. I don't know where he came from, but he's a gift from heaven." "My name is Eric Hollister," I told them. "And you must be Cecilia." I was sitting in my car at the crosswalk and saw Samantha fall. There was nothing I could do but bring her here, where the doctor should have been by now. I raised my voice. I knew I was being passive-aggressive, but I was starting to lose my temper. I poked my head out from behind the curtain and saw that Rachel was avoiding my gaze. "Get Pierce," I told her. If no one's here in 5 minutes to take care of this lady, I'll make a fuss at the next board meeting. Where the hell is Cindy? Dr. Pierce went to lunch with her, she said. Well, that's just great, I thought with disgust. Call Olivia, your daughter is just an intern, Rachel said. Can she prescribe medication and order a cast for this lady? I asked. Yes, she can do that, Rachel admitted. Then summon her, I told her. I went back and sat down in the chair next to Samantha. My daughter is an intern here, I told her. She'll be here in a minute. I thought about Cindy and that creep, Pierce, going to lunch together. What the hell was going on? Cindy knew damn well I wouldn't like it. I'd already made that clear to her several times. The first time we dated was about 6 months ago. I met Cindy when we were assigned to be lab partners for a biology lab. She was absolutely gorgeous, a tall, lush girl with dark hair, fair skin, and the bluest eyes you'd ever seen. I asked her out for a cup of coffee after lab, and while we were there, I suggested we date, and she said yes. We went out to dinner and a movie. I know, not the most fantastic date in the world, but I was 19 years old. She kissed me goodnight at the door of her room, and I asked her out again. We had been dating for 6 months, and I was walking out of an electronics store with a new video game when I saw her and George Cooper walk into the Chili's restaurant next door. I walked in, and they were sitting together in a booth in the back row. He was hugging her, and she was laughing in his face. I turned around and went home. I had an apartment across the street from the school, and I just picked up her stuff, put it in a box outside the door, and went to class for 2 days. I didn't go home or talk to her. She called me about a dozen times and sent me a bunch of emails, but I didn't read or respond to them. Twice she waited for me at the front of the classroom when class was over, but I came back and told the professor I needed to talk to him in his office. We talked as we walked out the door, and she didn't get a chance to say anything. I was skipping biology labs when I got up Saturday morning. She was curled up asleep in the hallway outside the door. I stepped over her and walked down the hall. I must have made some kind of noise. I tried to be inconspicuous, but she jumped up, ran after me down the hallway, wrapping her arms around me from behind. She spun me around, her eyes blazing. "What's the matter with you, Eric?" she shouted. "Why did you put my stuff out in the hallway? Why won't you talk to me? Why are you avoiding me? Have you met someone else?" "No, I told her. I heard Cooper has an opening. Maybe you should give him a call. I know third-line runners have busy schedules, is that what this is about?" she asked incredulously. "You know I went to school with him, right? We dated for a while, but now we're just friends. What did you think? We were lovers?" "I didn't think anything of it," I told her. "I was coming out of the store and saw you walk into Chili's with him. We're just two old friends having lunch," she called out. "What the hell is going on with you?" "My girlfriends don't dine alone with other men," I told her. "You jealous freak," she cried and walked away. It was another 2 days before I saw her again. I may have been a jealous jerk, but I knew how to live with myself. If others couldn't, that was fine with me. The next time I saw Cindy was when she knocked on the door. I looked out and saw her in the hallway. "I don't want to," I shouted through the door. "It's me," she said. "Can I talk to you?" "I don't think so," I said. "I'm jealous, remember?" "I'm sorry I said that," she said. "Please let me come in and talk to you for a minute." I opened the door. She stood there for a minute. She didn't meet my eyes? "I'm sorry, Eric. I didn't know you would care. Now I know, and it won't happen again. Didn't you know that people in relationships aren't supposed to go on dates alone with members of the opposite sex? I asked. You're reading the wrong relationship books, Cindy. That phrase is from a cheater's manual, not a relationship manual. I'm not a cheater, she said. It was lunch. I've known him since 4th grade. All the more reason not to be alone with him, I told her. Why didn't you tell me you were having lunch with him? If you never have lunch, then you never cheat. That's my rule. I don't do it, and no one I'm in a relationship with does it. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry. It won't happen again, she said. Okay, I forgive you, I told her. I started to walk away, and she ran after me. That's it? She asked incredulously. You're just going to walk away from me? I'm jealous, I told her. I don't think we're on the same page, Cindy. The fact that you didn't see anything wrong with going to lunch with him and not telling me about it tells me that nothing good can come of it. Jesus, Eric, she blurted out. Okay, I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry. Sorry I did it. Don't I mean more to you than that? Hell, I've been sleeping with you for months. Don't you know I love you? Are you really going to throw me out for having lunch with a guy I've known my whole life? I thought about it for a moment. No, I think that would be too much. I'm still mad as hell about it, but we'll see if we can work it out. If you're going to have dinner with a man other than me, you need to tell me ahead of time. I'll do the same for you. Eventually, things got better for us, and things were just on the up and up until senior year. I didn't really like campus life. I went to school to get an education, and most of the students were just jerks that I would never volunteer to hang out with. I had a few buddies that I socialized with. One of them was Patrick Kelly. He was a big soccer fan, and we had a pretty good team that year. He kept talking me into going to the game until I finally gave up and went. We didn't sit in the student section, his dad had season tickets, and we used them to get a seat on the 50-yard line. After the game, we were getting ready to leave, and I saw Cindy in the student section. I didn't know she was going to the game, or I would have asked her to join us. She was talking and laughing with a group of friends, and I started to walk up to her. Then, she started walking down the steps, and there was a guy with her. She was holding onto his hand and laughing at him. I froze in place. It was George Cooper. He had an injury, and was expelled that year. I just stood there, and she looked in my direction. Our eyes met, and she froze in place. I turned and walked away, but I heard her calling my name. I left Patrick there and continued walking. She caught up to me in the parking lot and grabbed my arm. Eric, oh my God, Eric, it wasn't what it looked like, she said. I interrupted her. I don't care, Cindy. Let go of my hand. Talk to me, Eric, she began to cry. Let me, I politely asked. You to let go of my hand, I told her. She lowered her hand, and I started walking. She turned around and stood in front of me. You're not leaving until you give me a chance to explain, she barked. Goodbye, Cindy. I walked around her and left her crying. She called me about 10 times a day until the semester was over, and I didn't answer or listen to her messages. She set up her campsite in the hallway outside my apartment, but I just packed up, climbed out the window, and stayed with Patrick for the rest of the semester. Over Christmas break, I went to my parents' house, and she stopped by a couple of times to see me. I told my mom and dad not to let her in and refused to go to the door. I transferred a semester and drove 50 miles to school. Mom and dad were mad at me, and I didn't give a damn. When I graduated, I got a job near Austin and moved into an apartment. I occasionally heard of her when one of my friends mentioned her, but I never saw her. I moved back to Central Texas about 6 months later when one day her father showed up at work when I was out. I saw him standing by my car and started to get ready to head back. After thinking about it, I decided not to delay. This was going to suck. I walked to my car, and he looked up when he heard me. "Eric, I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I'm a father and I have no choice. I love my daughter. I know what she did was very stupid. I know she did it twice. The problem is that she really loves you, Eric, and she's miserable. She lost 20 pounds, the first 5 didn't hurt, but she doesn't sleep, hardly eats, and only leaves the house when she hears you've come home and thinks she might see you somewhere. Put us out of our misery, Eric. At least, talk to her. Maybe we can put this behind us, and she can move on with her life. Please, our whole family is suffering." Well, it was as disgusting as I thought it would be. I felt really bad for him. It wasn't his fault, and he was my 6th grade baseball coach. I always really liked him and his wife. "All right, Mr. Peterson," I told him. "I don't know what to make of this. Cindy did that to me once, and I thought I made myself perfectly clear. I never imagined it would come up again. She doesn't think like I do. I don't know how to deal with it." "I understand," he nodded. "I even agree with you, but please, just talk to her, listen to what she has to say. That's all I'm asking." "Thank you, Eric, I owe you one." "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Peterson," I told him. "You taught me how to play first base, I'm the one who owes you. Tell her. I'll come home and pick her up at 6 o'clock on Friday, okay?" We went to Cheddar's, and I bought her dinner. I had heard it before several times, and I didn't want to hear it again. "George is a very nice guy," she said. "Cindy, were you wanting a date with me or not?" I asked. "You know I did, honey," she tried to placate me. "It sounds like you had some doubts," I told her. "I saw you two together at Chili's restaurant, you were sitting in the same booth, and he had his arm around you." "We're very good friends," she said. "If you get to know him better, you'll like him. I want you two to be friends. We talked about it, and I don't do that anymore. I want you and him to be friends." "We're not going to be friends," I told her. "We're not going to date because of your friend." "What do you mean?" she stammered. "I'm not going out with you again," I told her. "The first time this happened, I told you that if you were ever alone with him again, it was over between us. I guess you didn't believe me." "Why are you being such an," she snapped back. "It was just lunch and a ride home after the soccer game." "He's a good guy." "No," I told her. "You're an expletive, too. I don't know what I see in you." This was a bad idea. I stood up and threw the money on the table. I didn't need the change. I walked out the door and headed for my car. I didn't realize she was following me until I pressed the remote button. Luckily, I only pressed it once and the passenger door stayed locked. She tried to open it, but I just got in the car and started it. She ran up and opened my door. "Are you going to leave me here?" she shouted. "I'll call you a cab," I said. "We need to talk." "No, we don't," she said. I told her, "Maybe you could talk to Cooper. He's such a nice guy." "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't realize you'd be such a jerk. I won't be alone with him anymore." "It's too late," I told her. "It should have happened last time. You have no respect for me or anyone else. But a good guy, have a nice life, Cindy." I called her a cab. See, I'm a good guy. If I wasn't, I didn't see or hear from her for 3 weeks. When I finally went back to my parents' house to spend the weekend, I was ambushed. I guess they'd seen Intervention or Dr. Phil. My mom called me on the way home and asked me what time she should plan dinner for. I was in complete ignorance as to the nefarious plans and, like a dummy, told her. They even had the cleverness to park their cars on the next block. When I got home, I grabbed my suitcase and laptop and headed inside. Dad met me in the entryway and took my suitcase. We went upstairs and put my stuff down, and he told me my mom and my sister were in the room. They were in the room, as was Cindy and her parents and mom's pastor. I must have looked like a complete idiot standing there with my mouth open. The furniture was arranged in a circle with an empty chair for everyone to stare at. My little sister jumped up and ran over to me. She hugged me and kissed me and touched everything like she always did. I loved Chris. She was 15, and she was the sweetest creature you'd ever seen. She took my hand and led me to my throne. It was either that or the electric chair. Pastor Robbins was obviously the spokesperson. I always thought he was a pretentious freak who stands too close to you when he speaks. Eric, we all have something to say to you, and we're here to listen to you too. We know you're upset and we understand, but we think you're being unreasonable, he said. I looked around, and they were all smiling and nodding at me. I love you, honey, and I want us to be together for the rest of our lives, Cindy said in her softest voice. Just listen to what we have to say, and then we'll listen to you. It was the father's turn. Son, did you know that your mom has male friends and I have female friends? There was silence. Do you want me to speak? I asked. They all smiled and nodded. I didn't know you had an open marriage, I said. You've been so careful to keep it from me my whole life that I was completely in the dark. The smiles faded a little. Are you hanging horns on Dad, Mom? I never suspected anything, she had the grace to blush. Why do you say that? She asked. There's no need to be rude. That's not what your father meant. We have friends of the opposite sex. We all do. Okay, that was informative. Is it my turn now? I asked. They all smiled and nodded. Okay, this has been a lot of fun, I said. I appreciate you all being here to explain things to me. I can see how unreasonable I've been. I just need to go up to my room and think for a few minutes. You all wait here. I'll be back in about 10 minutes, I said. Oh, the bliss on their faces was excruciating. I stood up, and Cindy came over and kissed me on the cheek. Chris looked at me cheerfully. I got up and walked up the 3 steps out of the room, and then the 7 upstairs to my bedroom. I took my suitcase, and Chris took my computer. She followed behind me. We went outside and put them in the trunk. You're not coming back, are you? She asked. No, baby, I hugged her. I love you, but I'm done with this. Call me, and I'll pick you up. We'll go somewhere, just you and me? Good, Eric, she kissed me. I love you too. I'm sorry they embarrassed you like that. It's not your fault, honey, I told her. I'll see you around. I squeezed her one last time and pulled away from the driveway. I rolled down the window. Take a walk, sweetheart, I told her. Give me a chance to get out of town. She nodded and walked further down the street. 20 minutes later, the machine informed me of a call. It was Mom. Hi, Mom, I said. Where are you? She asked. Where's Chris? Is she with you? She's taking a walk, I said. I'm just passing through Hillsborough. She hesitated for a few seconds. But you said you'd be back soon. Well, yes, but I've decided not to, I said. Please feel free to continue without me. Oh Mom, from now on, Chris is the only one of you I'll be taking calls from. Don't write, don't visit, don't use your telepathic powers that you obviously possess to tell you how unreasonable I am. Bye, Mom. Eric, wait, she said. I love you, darling. Forgive me, I only want what's best for you. Just let me talk to you. Don't you think I decide for myself what's best for me? I asked. Bye, Mom. Maybe you can talk to one of your male friends. I ended the conversation. A minute later, another call rang. I didn't answer. In the next 5 minutes, I got 5 more calls, and I didn't answer. The 6th was from Chris. Hey, kitten, are you in trouble? I asked. Sort of, she said. They made me call you, Eric. A noise was heard, and my father's voice rang out. You should be ashamed, I cut him short. Maybe my family would be interested in marrying Cindy, they're all so reasonable. Maybe they'd have a big group wedding, except for Chris, of course. Over the next 3 days, I received probably 100 calls. My secretary at work left stacks of messages on my desk every morning, afternoon, and evening. I listened to all the voicemails, read all the messages and all the emails. They were very entertaining. Cindy's family was furious, and so was she. My parents too. At first, I heard almost nothing from my dad, and my mom stopped being angry after the first 5 messages or so. She cried in voicemails, and there were notes of desperation in her messages and emails. After the first hour or 2, she started apologizing. Cindy also became increasingly tearful and apologetic. She begged me to talk to her, to see her, to meet her, to call her, anything. She was going to change, she was going to make it up to me, things were going to be different. If I didn't like one of her friends, she was never going to meet him again. All I had to do was give her another chance, and all this magic was going to happen. She just didn't get it. I don't think any of them did. I have a code. I have girlfriends who are also women. Since I was in a relationship with Cindy, I didn't spend time alone with them. That's just fraught with trouble. Sure, there were business and social gatherings with women other than Cindy, but I certainly didn't take them out to lunch or dinner and hug them. If they had significant others, we spent time together, if not, we didn't socialize. Why put yourself in a compromising situation? My dad's been telling me that my whole life. You date who you know, you marry the people you date, you do it with the people you are alone with, and the people you get into relationships with. It's a conscious choice. All this I didn't mean for it to happen, or it just happened. Crap makes me want to puke. It's a matter of conscious choice. I chose to be a one-woman man, and my partner chose to be a one-woman woman. If it sounds like I'm inflexible, you're damn right I am. Sue me. Over the next week, I went on a couple of dates and had a good time. It was kind of a relief when Cindy wasn't around. It was especially liberating not having to guess where she was or who she was having lunch with. I went back to McKinn, and stayed at a hotel that weekend. I picked up Chris to take her to Six Flags. She ran out and jumped in the car when I pulled up. You should hurry, she said. It's too late. Mom came running from the sidewalk as I started to back up. She jumped on the hood of the car, and I just couldn't drive away. I rolled down the window. What do you want, Mom? I asked. Promise me you won't leave until I say, she said. I sighed. Okay, I promise. What do you want? She got up and walked over to the window. She leaned over, put her arms around me, and kissed me. I wanted to say, I'm sorry, she said. Tears stood in her soft brown eyes. I should have respected you more, Eric. I love you so much, and you're killing me by not talking to me. You are my only son, and I beg you to forgive me. Don't cut me out of your life. I stroked her soft cheek. What are you doing next Saturday? I asked her. She looked at me hopefully. Nothing, she said. Is there anything you want me to do? Why don't I come and get you and Chris? I suggested. I'll take you to IKEA in Round Rock. Mom loved that place. Then we'll take Chris to the outlet stores and have dinner. Her smile was bright and happy. Sounds like a good time, she said. We'll be ready, won't we, Chris? Chris was excited about the outlet stores and much less excited about IKEA, but she wanted to go. We had a great time at Six Flags, and I was looking forward to the next weekend. Work was going well that week. I had just started working and had a pretty steep learning curve to go through. I worked out some problems in the foundry, and Jack patted me on the back. That same week, I met his daughter, Allison. I drove to McKen and pulled up in the driveway. Mom and Chris came out, all happy and animated, and jumped in the car. Eric, I want to apologize to you again, Mom began. Let's just forget about all this, I said. Let's go shopping. All the clothes are on me. Mom, if you buy any crappy furniture, I'm not dragging it home, I teased. She laughed, and off we went. We stopped for a bite of hamburgers, and it was a good day. I brought home some crappy furniture, they were just lamps, but I told her she would be putting them together herself. The instructions that came with them were written by professional confusers. On Monday, on my way home, I stopped at my favorite bar for a beer. When I walked up the stairs to my apartment, there was Cindy sitting on the top step. I almost turned around and left, then I got mad. This was my home, and I wasn't going to let her chase me away. I sighed and continued upstairs. I wondered what she was doing there in the middle of the week. She was in her last year of school to become a physician's assistant. May I come in and talk to you? She asked. What do you want, Cindy? I asked. I thought it was clear by now. Yes, she said. I want to make it right. I had to smile. I kind of liked the clarity. I sighed, she was here, so I might as well get it over with. I opened the door and stepped aside so she could walk past. I sat down on the couch, and she placed a chair in front of me. I want another chance, she said. Well, that's not going to happen, I said. Why does everyone but me get one? She asked. I wasn't going to date anyone, I told her. They regretted what they did and apologized. Me too, she said. I've apologized 1,000,000 times. I'm sorry, Eric. I had no idea you felt the way you do. How can I make it up to you? I'll do anything. What the hell do you mean by I had no idea how you felt? I asked. I told you exactly how I felt. I was stupid, she said. I couldn't believe you really meant it. It sounded so unreasonable that I couldn't believe you were serious. I threw up my hands. Do you have any idea how sick the word unreasonable makes me? Maybe I am unreasonable. It's just the way I am. I'm happy in my unreasonableness. If you're not, there's the door. I don't think it's unreasonable of me to expect my girl not to have dinner alone with other men or go to games with them. It seems like common sense to me. If it's unreasonable, then that's the way I am. I understand now, she said. What can I do to make it up to you? What can I do so we can be together? Cindy didn't look well. Her usually bright hair was somehow dull and lifeless, and she looked gaunt. She looked like she was about to cry, her eyes were full of tears. I swear to God, if you start crying, I'm going to get up and kick you out of here, I told her. She snorted a few times and blotted her eyes with a tissue. "Eric, I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't go to the game with him. I went with my girlfriends, and he was just there. We were all talking and having a good time. He was going to give me a ride to my dorm. That's all that happened, okay?" "I believe you," I said. "So why don't you want to talk to me?" She seemed puzzled. "I'll talk to you about anything but you and me," I told her. "I didn't think you wanted to talk about anything else," she mumbled. "I want to talk about you and me. If you don't believe I went there to meet him, what's the big deal? You drove off with him." I told her, "My girlfriends don't ride in cars alone with other men. I realize it's work, and I'm not unreasonable enough to care about it. I thought I made that clear. I don't spend time alone with other women, and I don't let my girlfriend spend time alone with other men." "You've been reading the cheater's manual again, Cindy," I said. "It was just a trip," she protested. "How did you get to the game?" I asked her. "With Julia," she said. "Why didn't you go with Julia?" I asked. For a minute, she sat stunned. "I don't know," she said. "Yes," I told her, "he cut you out of the herd and left you alone. That's how it starts. You let him do it. If you knew that, if you ever thought about it, I wouldn't like it." "There, now I realize it," she said. "I've been stupid, but I can learn, Eric. Now I see where you're going with this. I didn't realize. Do guys really do that? How did we end up together?" I asked her. "You asked me if I wanted a snack after lab," she said. "Who were you with?" I asked her. "Julia and Robin." "You've cut me out of the herd, haven't you?" "That's exactly right. That's how it works. I have you alone. It's just the two of us. And that's how it works. That's how romances start. That's exactly what Cooper wanted. I let him, didn't I?" "Yes, Cindy, it is. I can't live with that. I can't always be there to make sure you don't go off alone with some man. That's your job, and you're not handling it well." "I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't realize what was going on. It makes sense now. He's been calling me ever since, Eric. If you give me another chance, this will never happen again." "I gave you another chance," I said. "You blew it." "Yes, but I didn't understand," she said. "I couldn't understand why you were reacting that way. I understand now. I'm not going to let it happen again?" "All right, suppose I believe you." "What now?" I asked. "Will you go out with me on Friday?" she asked. She didn't raise her eyes to me. "Okay, what time?" I asked. I still didn't trust her, and that didn't change until I accidentally overheard the conversation. I was coming home from work and went into the grocery store to buy a couple of bottles of wine. The wine department had high racks that were impossible to look through. As I turned to the department I wanted, I saw a couple of guys on the other aisle. One of them was George Cooper. They were talking louder than they should. "What happened to that hottie you had on the line?" a guy I didn't know asked. "You mean Cindy?" asked Cooper. "Yeah, she was smoking," the other guy said. "She has a douchebag boyfriend," Cooper said. I was just about to close the deal, and he saw us together. He made a scene, and now she won't even talk to me. It won't be for long. I'm going to keep calling her and eventually wear her down. I'm going to do it some more. She says she's never going to talk to me again, but I'm not giving up." That surprised me. Cindy kept her word, and I was impressed. She had her chance, and she passed the test. It made it much easier for me to move on. I dealt with Cooper too. It's hard to call women when your right arm is in a cast. He had another red shirt year and lost his scholarship. That was 27 years ago, and until about age 5, she was true to her word. Then someone gave her a book. It was something about her needs, his needs, and Cindy was fascinated by the book. Suddenly, all this psychobabble about getting in touch with our feelings came pouring out of her mouth. She explained it all to me. Men and women are different, she said. I was shocked. Who would have thought? Who buys this crap? Do I really have to pay $29.99 for someone to point out the obvious? I was pretty sure. I had known this since the first time I saw the girl. There was all this crap about how men don't understand women, that they often live in deprivation because their men don't understand or care about their needs, and that they can take charge of their lives by letting us know they need emotional fulfillment. She had all these great ideas about what we should do. We spent hours talking about nonsense in carefully organized and bonding meetings. We acquired a bookshelf filled with the most pointless and stupid books imaginable. We watched boring and stupid movies designed to make me realize my callousness and insensitivity. She would highlight passages from stupid books for me to read. The insanity became more and more extreme. Most of the wise advice she received and disseminated seemed to have one goal: women need emotional fulfillment, and their husband is incapable of providing it. However, if he truly loves her, he will support and encourage her on her journey to find emotional security, and only then can she find true happiness. This is what she has been striving for the past 5 years, as far as I knew. Her behavior hadn't changed. She went out with groups without me, spent a lot of time in her circle of other sympathetic women, but was never alone with other men. I lived by the same rule. We both understood emergencies, work, and family, but never went alone with members of the opposite sex for fun until that day. Apparently, I had no idea how long it had been going on. Daddy, land to daddy, Olivia tugged on my hand. I put my arms around her. Hey, baby, sorry I got a little distracted. Olivia, these ladies are Samantha and Cecilia. Samantha's hurt, can you help them? Where's Mom? She asked. That's a good question, I said. I'll want to talk to you about it later. Can you get Samantha cleaned up? Sure, she said, turning around and looking back at Samantha. So, why are you here with the ignoramus? She nodded in my direction. He's helping me, and... You should be more respectful of your father, Samantha told her. Olivia snorted. Well, he's not respectable at all, so that's out of the question. But I love him with all my heart, is that enough? Samantha's eyes sparkled. I can see that, dear. He's been so good to me. He brought me here in his truck, put me in this nice room with such nice nurses, and I'm so grateful to him. You don't need to stay any longer, Mr. Hollister. Dr. Olivia and Cecilia will take care of me. It was nice to meet you, Samantha, but if you call me Mr. Hollister one more time, I'll take you back, I smiled. My name is Eric. I'll be checking you out. I have your groceries in my truck. What do you want me to do with them? You can. No, I can't ask you to. Can't ask what? I asked. Cecilia spoke up. Could you take them to our house? We can't afford to have them spoiled. Her grandson is there, he'll let you in. She led me out into the hallway and gave me the address. I turned to leave, and she said quietly, Eric, I'm so grateful to you for helping Grandma. She stood on her tiptoes, kissed my cheek, hugged me, and whispered, You're a very good person. I patted her on the shoulder and went outside. When I walked out of the emergency room door, I saw Cindy and Pierce hurrying toward the entrance. There was a large concrete column between me and them, and I could hear them talking. "This is really bad, Elliot," Cindy said. "It's really bad. God, I hope he's still there. We've got to make this right. We'll tell him we planned a board meeting. He can't find out about us. I'm not ready yet." "He's too stupid to realize it," Pierce said. "He doesn't have the slightest clue." "You're wrong," she said. "He's smarter than any of us. Our only hope was that he wouldn't suspect anything. Don't forget, we were planning a board meeting. I'll have Julia say she was there. Talk about a shock. I must have been really stupid. I didn't suspect a thing. I walked to the truck in a daze. I walked 2 blocks before I decided to check the address Cecilia had given me. I was going the wrong way. I rounded the block, and then my phone rang. It was Cindy. I didn't answer it. I found the address. It was a small white frame house with a nice vinyl fence around it. I picked up the groceries and carried them to the door. When I rang the bell, a slender black guy answered. "Are you Samantha Grove's grandson?" I asked him. "Yes, what can I do for you?" he asked. His voice was somehow high and breathy, and my gay radar went off immediately. "She was in an accident, and I brought her groceries home," I told him. "She wasn't badly hurt, but she broke her arm and got a little scratched up. Your sister asked me to bring this." "I have no sister," he said. "If you mean Cecilia, she's my cousin." "Sorry, my bad," I said. "Would you mind putting the groceries away for her?" "Yes, I can," he said, looking me over from head to toe. "Would you like to come in?" "No, I have to run," I told him anxiously. "Wait, are the eggs broken?" They were, and I promised her more eggs. That gave me an excuse to come back when Samantha was there. Now I had things to do. I went to Julia's house, but she wasn't home. She looked shocked when she saw me at the door. "Paul's not here," she said nervously. "I wanted to talk to you anyway," I told her. At that moment, Paul pulled into the driveway. "Well, I guess he's already here," I said. He jumped out of the car and grabbed his briefcase from the back seat. "Hey buddy," he called out, "let's grab a beer and sit on the porch. It's a nice evening. Julia, honey, could you get me and Eric a couple of beers?" We sat down on the porch, and Julia came out and handed us a couple of bottles of Paul's homebrew. He makes really good beer. It was a nice pale ale. She started to walk back into the house, and I caught her arm. "Julia, I told you I wanted to talk to you," I told her. She looked nervously at Paul. "I'm making dinner," she said. "Can I talk to you later?" "I think now would be a good time," I told her. "I don't want to give you time to make up a story." She burst into tears. "Don't make me tell you, Eric," she begged. "She's been my friend since 2nd grade. I don't want to get involved." Paul was angry at me or her, I couldn't tell which. "What the hell is going on here?" he asked. "Somebody better tell me something quick." "Cindy's having an affair with Pierce," I told him. "Julia's covering for her. There's more to it, but I don't know what it is yet." "Julia, is it true?" he asked. "Yeah, no, I won't cover for her," I told her. "I won't," Julia sobbed. "This has nothing to do with me. I'm so sorry, Eric. I wanted to tell you, but you were so happy, and I love you so much. I didn't know how. I didn't have time to figure out what I needed to do. I didn't have a chance to figure anything out. I didn't want you to get hurt." I stood up and hugged her. "I know, Julia. I don't blame you. I'd be really upset if you lied for her. I'm sorry you got caught up in this. You don't deserve anything like this. I'll make it up to you somehow. It might take me a while. She sobbed against my chest. I'm so sorry, Eric. I don't know what's wrong with her. She's acting crazy. Maybe she'll come to her senses. Do you know how long this has been going on? I asked her. No, I first heard about it when she called me an hour ago, she said. She acted like it had been going on for a while. Well, I apologize again, Julia, Paul said. I didn't mean to drag you into this. I just knew she was trying to get Julia to lie for her. I had to see for myself. If there's anything we can do, just ask us, Eric, he said. You know we'll be there for you. Know any good divorce lawyers? I chuckled. Actually, yes, he said. My partner is a family law specialist. You should talk to her if you decide to go that route. I thanked them and apologized again. I drove home, hating the thought of going inside. Cindy wouldn't be there, what Olivia would be. What was I supposed to say? I wondered if she knew and was covering for her mother. I'm going to have to find out. It would just kill me. I was in enough pain as it was. On the way home, I called her and told her I would get chicken for dinner. The Popeyes happily agreed, and we sat down at the table and ate. She told me about Samantha. She was given painkillers and a cast, and Cecilia took her home. We chatted for a while, but there was no way I was going to start. I wasn't even sure I wanted to know. She finished cleaning up the rest of the food, and I just picked her up in my arms and carried her to the couch, sitting her down and cuddling her. She looked up at me and saw tears streaming down my cheeks. "Daddy, what's wrong?" she asked. "Why are you acting so strange, Livy?" I always called her that when she was little. "You know I love you very much, don't you?" "Yes, I love you too," she said. "You're starting to scare me, Daddy. You're not sick or anything, are you?" I had to laugh. "No, baby, I'm not sick. Is there anything you want to tell me about your mother? I know you two work together." She looked me in the face with the bottomless blue pools of her eyes. "You know, don't you, Daddy?" she said quietly. "Yeah, I found out about it today," I said. "Why didn't you tell me, baby?" "Because I had no proof," she said, tears starting to flow. "I suspected it. I asked her about it, and she just laughed at me. She said I was talking nonsense and that she didn't want to hear anything like that again. I couldn't prove anything except that they were disappearing at weird times and acting weird around each other. What are you going to do, Daddy?" "I guess that's up to her," I said. "I'm going to confront her too. I'm not going to listen to lies. If she lies, we're probably finished anyway. I don't know how to handle this, honey. Will you help me? I'm ready to die for you, Daddy," she hugged me tightly. "I'm on your side. If she lies and cheats, I won't stand for it. The thought of my mother lying to me just kills me, and the thought of her doing that to you makes me even angrier. I want to slap her." "Yeah, me too," I grinned. "I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want you to get violent either. We need to take it easy, okay?" "Yeah, I know, but I'm still pretty pissed," she said. "We should change the locks on the door or something," I suggested. "Sounds like fun," I laughed. "I'm afraid it will be temporary. She might get the law to let her back in. We'll see what happens when I meet her." "I want to be there," she said. "It's my family too." "Okay, we'll just sit here, and I'll hold you until she gets home, okay?" We cried together for a long time. I felt like my life was crashing down around me, And I didn't know what I would do if my baby girl wasn't by my side. It was still more painful than anything I had ever experienced, but I knew that Olivia and I would be together in the end. We just cried it out. We made some adjustments to our living arrangements, and began to wait. She got up, got us each a scoop of ice cream, and we watched the movie until we saw the headlights of Cindy's car come on in the driveway. She looked very nervous when she walked into the house and saw us. Olivia was still by my side, wrapping her arms around my neck. Cindy tried to wave me away. "Hey, you've been waiting," she said. She walked over and tried to kiss Olivia, but she held up her hand. "Leave it alone, Mom," she practically spat at her. "We all know. Don't try to pretend everything's okay. Eric, can I talk to you alone for a few minutes?" Cindy started to stalk toward the bedroom, noticing that I wasn't moving from my spot. "Just a few minutes," she said. "No, we're fine," I told her. "What do you think you're doing, Cindy?" She came back and sat down in the club chair across from us. I saw her square her shoulders and take a deep breath. "I have a relationship with Elliot Pierce," she said. "It has nothing to do with us, Eric. There's nothing wrong with us. It's something completely separate from our marriage. I'm not leaving you or anything like that. It's just something I need. I can talk to Elliot, and we have an emotional connection. We've talked about everything. You won't notice the difference in our lives. I won't neglect you. This is just between me and him. I need something else. I've been very happy with you, but I need something different than what you're giving me." Olivia laughed. "Yeah, like that's going to happen. Be realistic, Mom." "Olivia, this has nothing to do with you," Cindy said. "It only has to do with your father and me." "So, what? Are you moving in?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "I'm not moving out. Why would I move out?" "Well, you need a new place to live. Here's your text with corrected errors and punctuation." I told her, "After the divorce, we're going to have to sell this house, Olivia. And I need to find another place." "What divorce?" she asked. "We're not getting a divorce." "I don't want a divorce." "I don't care what you want," I told her. "The complete lack of respect you just showed me and your daughter just led you to this. What the hell have I said or done in the last 27 years to make you think I would agree to this? No, we're getting a divorce, Cindy. I predict it's going to be long and nasty. And after the divorce, you're in for a long, nasty single life."